On today's episode, how many people does it take to put together an entire Ghost cover album? Not as many as you'd think. All this and more coming up on gonstFM Off Air. Welcome, ghouls, ghoulettes, and guesties to gonstFM Off Air, the official podcast companion to 66.6 gonstFM, the radio station dedicated to the band Ghost and the Gonst posting community. Broadcasted live once per month on the Stationhead app. I'm your host, Richie, aka Papa X, aka Papa Me Emeritus, as so lovingly named by the Gonst posting community. If you've kept up with that gonstFM on all social media platforms, then chances are you've seen me share this project around. I'm talking about the Ghost cover album that was just released by Rob and Julia. It's an audio and visual performance art piece designed to look like a ritual, complete with makeup, costume changes, and more. See, I could tell you all about this, but fortunately for you, I have the man himself right here with me, ready to tell you everything that went on with the making of this album, getting the guest musicians involved, and so much more. So everybody, please welcome my guest at this time, the Octo Ghoul himself, Rob and Julia. Thanks for sitting with me today, dude. How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm great, man. I remember watching you on Instagram, post on your Dynamite Robin channel and also the Octo Ghoul channel, which that's where I found you. Actually, was the Octo Ghoul Instagram, and I remember seeing all these pictures and teasers, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." Just because we come across content creators so much in this community, which I think Ghost has just an amazing amount of people that are artistic in every facet. So to see somebody come along and do a project as ambitious as this, that was really cool to see. When did you first see the band? I know we've talked on Instagram before, but when did you first see Ghost in concert, and what inspired you to take this project on?
So the first time I saw Ghost live was back in 2018, at the Stade de France, to see Metallica, which was playing in France. They were doing the big tour for I think it was the Hardwire album. And they played the Stade de France, which is the big venue in Paris. And at that time, I don't exactly remember how I was introduced to Ghost, but I was just looking for new music, in the rock metal genre, because at that time I was started to get introduced to that kind of music. I was not used to rock or metal. I was a classical guitar player at the time, but I was always into music because my father is a musician, my mother did dance, and But at that time I was in my young teenage year. I was starting to get introduced to more hardcore music, and so for a way I found Ghost. The first thing that attracted me was the visual aspect. I was oh, okay, everybody, it looks like a black metal band, very trash hardcore. But then I listened to the sound. I think the first one was Square Hammer, most of people. And I was oh, the pop sound. I like it, the melody, the chord progressions. And I was directly part of the people who agreed to the sound of the band. Was oh, I like it. I like the idea of the contrast with the visual and the music. And then I was oh, okay, I'm into it. And then I listened to series, all the singles, Year Zero. And I was oh, Metallica is going to France. Let's watch the first act. I was oh, Ghost. Okay, that's perfect. At the time, my parents wanted to come with me because I was still young and going to the Stade de France, which is a big venue. I was okay, well, my parents are going to come with me. I hope they like the show. And we enjoyed the show, and Ghost was the first act, and it was during the prequel era. It was impressive. They were tiny. I saw the copia as a tiny thing, and all the ghouls. And the screens, they had the screen live retranscription. It was not that great of a quality because the show was made for Metallica, and because they were the opening act, it was very small. But I just absolutely enjoyed the show. It was miasma, mummy dust, all the interactions. They managed to do a great show despite the lights. It was it was still sunny at that moment they were playing, and the big venue, the Stade de France, is huge. But they took the stage perfectly, and I was oh, that's perfect. Then years passed. I was introduced to other kind of music, more around the rock instead of metal, more like alternative rock and things like that. I was introduced to also noise music, things like that. And then I think it was last year, I met a friend, which is called Clarice. So big up to Clarice if you watch this, which reintroduced me to Ghost in a kind of way because she discovered the band. It was like she was started to get a big fan of the band, even more than I was at the time, like with all the lore and everything. And I was a bit lost because I stopped to listen to them a bit, was like listening to some songs sometimes. Then she was like, "Oh, Robin, do you know Ghost? I want to see them live. They're going on a new tour." So it was like the Emperor tour. I was like, "Oh yeah, I used to listen to them. I saw them with Metallica." And I started to listen to them, and I think the first song I heard from this era was Spillways, because I wasn't aware of like the new Papa, the new Ghouls outfits, and so on, the new sound also. I was like, "Oh, that's still amazing." That's still amazing. So I went into it again, and this time I went like in my big fan era. So I bought the merch. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna listen to the full discography." And yeah, that's when after that I went to the Emperor show in Rouen, which was the first live gig of the Emperor when they played Respite for the first time, Jesus Knows Me, when we were introduced to the new Ghouls. And as I said in the intro of the album, because I think like doing a project as huge as that, it's important to explain the situation of why I'm doing this project, like the reason why. And so yeah, the Rouen show was like another shock for me. It was like, I need to do a big project on that group. So after the show, I finished first the Faith cover that I did before, which was like a smaller project because it was only one song. I bought like the Ghoul mask, but cheap quality. I did the makeup myself, but I'm not good at makeup. I tried to do everything well, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds nice. Let's do a full album."
And it was great too. That was what I think I enjoyed the most about it. And I was just actually like texting a friend of mine this morning before I jumped on here with you. I said, it reminded me a lot of when we were all having to do lockdown and we had content creators and musicians alike giving us personal concerts. There was no audience really. We were the audience, but they were essentially just performing, to camera and things like that. And it brought me, back to like, because the pandemic wasn't fun for everybody, but those types of things made you feel like you had a more personal one-on-one, with whoever was, providing the entertainment. And I think that's what I enjoyed most about this project, was getting to like really get immersed into it. And the fact that you did both very faithful interpretations of these characters, but also managed to bring some originality to the table. Yeah, and
I tried.
Oh, I loved it. I loved seeing it because it shows the passion that you have for it. And outside of just the sheer musicianship, which for anybody out there listening, what impressed me the most, honestly, was seeing how great you are. Because like I'm a musician myself, dude. I've been playing music for 30 years. And you're what, 20?
I'm going on my 22 on the
22. Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, like I knew you were in your early 20s, and I was telling everybody, it's like, dude, this kid is freaking amazing. Like, you guys have to check him out. And I was sharing this Instagram page and teasers and everything that I could find, because I genuinely like getting so jazzed about anybody that plays music, especially seeing the passion that goes into it. When did you first pick an instrument up, and what was your first instrument?
I started music, I think, like the practice an instrument when I was around 7 or 8 years old. So that's mainly because of my father, because as I told you, he's a musician. He's also a music teacher. That's because of him that I started to play drums, because he had a background with like classical percussion learning program. He did a big music school in Paris, and he's a drum teacher, and he do other things that he play on some musical shows as a percussionist and things like that. And so I said, if you really want to know my first instrument contact, it was like with the drums when I was maybe 5 or 6. I just learned like the basic 4 on the floor pattern, like with my father learning me the drums, at me to learn the drums. So that's the first musical thing. Then after, as an official instrument practice, that's the classical guitar. Because I didn't really know why I picked this one, because Actually, I wanted to be a saxophonist at first. I wanted to be Papa Neil at the time.
I was gonna say, you know what's funny, dude? You picking up the drums like a little bit first before moving to guitar. Drums were my first instrument. My dad was a musician too.
I have the feeling that drums is the first instruments of a lot of people who then picked guitar. I saw that a lot for like a lot of musicians, but that's great to know that it's your first instruments too.
Yeah, and it was my first instrument for. Oh God, dude. So I actually started playing drums when I was 8, but I didn't get serious about it until I was like 11, 12 years old. And just like you, my dad played everything, you know, but he taught me 4 on the floor, and then I just took my CD Walkman, put it on a stool next to my drum kit, put a pair of cans on my head, and just started playing like AC/DC. And then I was like, I think I'm gonna learn Rush now. And then like I just started playing exactly. I just started playing everything, and like you said, man, dude, it was a gateway like to everything else. I picked up guitar and bass when I was 15 years old, and I haven't looked back since, really. So yeah, I thought it was cool that we kind of had a similar background there with like our dads and everything. So that's cool.
That's great to know. But yeah, I started with classical guitar. I had an incredible Spanish guitar teacher. It was like his specialty. You can feel like he practiced that every day of his life. He was a pro. But then, yeah, as I told you, around when I was maybe 13, 14, I started to get introduced to rock music, metal, and like a lot of classical guitarists was like, oh, I want an electric guitar. Mommy, daddy, please. So for my birthday, I think it was for my 14 or 13, I don't know, I got my first electric guitar, which is like a blue Squier Stratocaster. But it's not here. I think she's at the conservatory right now, so I can show it to you. But it's like, I was a big fan of Green Day at the time, and Billy Joe, the guitarist, has a blue Stratocaster Fernandez guitar with a lot of stickers on it. I wanted exactly the same, so I put like paper stickers. And then that was my first electric guitar.
Nice. That's pretty much what got me into like playing guitar too, because I listened to all kinds of music anyway. And around that time, dude, it was Blink-182 and Green Day for me. Like those are the bands that like really taught me, hey, you can rock and play like 3 chords and still rock.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And for the bass, it went after the guitar. I was like, I want to compose my own songs, but I need to have like a bass. I mean, like it's rock music. I need like a big fuzzy bass, like very driven. And I don't remember when I got my first bed, but I used to practice bass line on my guitar at first. Also doing my first like songs recording that I used to do on Audacity at the time. For like the bass line, I used to record my electric guitar and turn very up the low frequencies, which sounded awful, but it was like my kind of bass sound. And then I think when I had my whammy pedal, I used the same technique as Jack White, which is to put like an octave lower on the electric guitar, and then it sounds kind of a bass sound. And then I finally got my first bass, and I was able to record like proper bass lines. So yeah.
You know, it took me forever to get my own bass guitar, because my dad, like I said, like my dad had all, you know, the instruments and everything. So like I played on his drum kit for a while, and then I had my own drum kit finally. And him and my mom bought me a yellow Tom DeLonge Stratocaster, like the actual Fender Stratocaster for my 16th birthday. Yeah, because like my dad was one of those people that like if he was impressed with you, he did not come outright and be like, huh, you know, he didn't come outright about it. He told you in his own way. So when that guitar showed up like on the doorstep, and he's like, oh no, this is yours. I thought he ordered it for himself. I was like, look at you getting a fucking Blink-182 Stratocaster, because he used to just, you know, he was in it like Journey, obviously, like he was, you know, from like the 60s and 70s, he liked Journey and all that stuff, which I do too, but it was, you know, he was old man on the porch yelling. I was like, oh, you damn kids with your punk rock music, you know, that kind of shit. So when the guitar showed up on my doorstep, I was like, oh, cool, he got a fucking yellow Tom DeLonge Stratocaster, and he was like, no, this is yours. I was like, what? You know, so it kind of blew my mind. So that was my first guitar, and I actually still have it to this day. You know,
great.
Yeah, and you know, it's crazy because like that guitar, I would guess we can talk gear. It's got one humbucker. It's got a Seymour Duncan Invader pickup, but I got to tell you, dude, the way it's wired, it really brings out the treble and mids. You know, it's not a very bass heavy pickup, so surprisingly, it's good for lead. You know, I know you used a variety of instruments when recording for the Ghost project. All the instruments that are on camera, are those like some of the ones you used for real? Because I know like just shooting like video stuff just for the hell of it, I've used like prop guitars just in case I dropped it, because my God, like that actually happened one time. Like a friend of mine, we were filming a project and he dropped his guitar and I was like, oh no, it didn't break. But I was like, you know what? We should get a prop guitar. So.
Yeah, for the project, well, most of the things you see on screen are like the official instrument that I recorded with. The only difference is for Pseudo, I have a white Stratocaster guitar, which is not an official Stratocaster. It's kind of a vintage inspired white Stratocaster.
Mm-hmm.
This one is the only one that which is not really in the recording. I did all my electric guitar takes with my Court Manson Matthew Bellamy signature guitar, because it's a very powerful guitar and like for metal distortion sounds, it's perfect. But the only one that I didn't really use in the recording is the white Strat that you can see in all the album. The only songs where I used it is for the guitar duel, because this one is recorded live. That's me actually improvising on my guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to use, for the logic of the thing, to officially play on the guitar for that part of the album.
Right.
So that's just me playing live on the white Stratocaster guitar. And you can hear that the sound is a bit different and less good than the Manson one. But, I mean, that's only for that part. But all the other guitar parts are from my Court Manson, which is just here, which sounds incredible. We like the distortion sound.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and for people, because I know there are some people out there that may not have actually like seen or heard this yet, you know. So giving them kind of a deep dive into what you've used on doing it was something I definitely wanted to talk about, because just in conversing with you over the weeks, you know, we were talking like some gear and you know things like that. Yeah. So you know, I love whenever I get to have a fellow musician on, because I could talk gear and you know recording and all that stuff all day long. It fascinates me. The fact that you recorded, edited, produced, mixed, mastered, like everything, like the film and the music itself, very impressive. And I remember you saying that it took, gosh, almost a year, but you were working on it for about 10 months when I think whenever we first started talking, you had been working on it for what, 10 months at that point?
Yeah, around 10 months. And actually, I can say that the album officially, the working process officially lasts 10 months, because I checked the date. I started working on the album 1 week after the Ghost Rouen concert, which was I think the 21st of May or something like that. I started to work on the album on the 27th of May, like creating the official file, which is named Ghost Cover Album, and then working on the first song, which was Con Clavi Con Dio, I think. I did the guitar and the bass takes on one evening. So that was the first song, and I posted the album on the 27th of March. So it's been officially 10 months, if I'm right. So officially a 10-month project.
It's pretty impressive, dude, because I know it's one of those things where when I've recorded music before, I've been like, I'll release it and I'll be like, damn, I could have done this, I could have done that, I could have done this, I could have done that. Were there any like obstacles or challenges in doing this, as far as like, okay, this tone doesn't sound right, or I'm not happy with, like maybe you sat on a guitar take for a little while that you grew to not be happy with and you redid it, or like how many times did you go back and change anything?
I was more I mean, like on the musical aspect, like the recordings of the songs, it was three things for me. First, the drums, because some of the drum parts are like impossible to play for me. I simplified some of them. I don't exactly remember which one, but I think was on the medley. I had to simplify some of the parts. For sure, Keseri on like the full drum part. Con Clavi too. I spend a lot of time on the ta-tu-tu-ta-tu-tu-ta-tu-tu-ta with the
that's a good waltz beat too. It's crazy to hear like a waltz drum beat used in metal. So I was like, when I first heard that song, that's one of my favorites, by the way. When I first heard that, I was like, oh, this is so good. You know, it was just chef's kiss.
Exactly. And the fact that because he used it on, I think on Genesis, one part of Prime Mover, he used it later on Spirit, the ta-tu-tu-ta.
Yep.
And the fact that he created a whole song with that, I'm like, that's great, but I have to play it now. I spent a lot of time, and I kind of managed to do it. I had to like do and cut some of the parts and do in several parts because I can't keep the full thing. But I managed to play the pattern and I'm like, okay, that's already great. Now I'm going to try to play it the best way I can. So yeah, the drums, some of the guitar solos. I think I sent on one of the Instagram stories on the Octo Ghoul account, which is like the ghost account that I did. I was like talking about the Kazarian guitar, like the in triplets. That's one of the first thing I started to work on for the guitar because I was like, I knew at the time that I was like, oh, I'm gonna struggle with this one, so I have to start to work on it, and then I'll try to get it right when I'll record it. And I got it on one take, which I'm like, okay, I got it now. That's done. Let's go to the rest. But plus, I already knew that on some of the instruments I was gonna struggle a lot, and I will have not going able to play as great as Mountain or as the session drummer, which is on the album. So I know I was like, oh, okay, I will not fake it. I'm gonna play with my own experience, simplify some of the things, and at least if it sounds great and if it still fits the original vibe of the song, that's great. Also, like I'm a bad keyboardist. I mean, from all the instruments of the Ghost thing, the keyboard was like a nightmare for me because I did all the keyboard parts in during the recording, but not live. I was like searching for all my synth sounds. And then I replayed live during the video recordings. I had to replay the synth part, and I had to relearn all the synth part to be able to play them live. It was like, oh, that's a nightmare. The synth solo on Miasma, no. And that's why also for the series solo, one of my friends, which is a jazz keyboardist, played it. And for Life Eternal, that's a friend from my music high school. My music university, which is called Alexandra, that played the whole piano part. I wrote the piano sheet and I sent it to her because I know she's a really good music reader to read scores and things like that. So she nailed the piano part in like one take.
Wow.
I would not have been able to play that. So
that's another thing I was going to talk to you about. I love that you got the amount of people involved in this project that you did, because I was noticing like on Mummy Dust, there was a guitar piece, and then you got somebody to come play sax on Miasma, and then you even had some of our mutual guesties doing the video / backing vocals on Monsters Clock, which was very refreshing to see more of like a communal involvement with it. That's amazing that you were able to involve as many people as you were. Was that kind of a challenge to set up at first, or how did that go for you?
So for all the collaborations part, it's the beauty of that project, because it was not supposed to be that collaborative at first. That's actually not the first time I do a cover album like Ghosts. I did other ones, which were like just audio ones, no video affiliated with it. But the first one I did with the video, which is kind of the same as Ghost, was for another of my favorite bands, which is 21 Pilots, which is in a whole different genre. It's for like an alternative pop. They have like rock sounds and so on, but it's very different. But at that time I was like, oh, okay, I'm doing my own thing, the drums, the bass, vocals and so on. I was like, that's missing something. Like Ghost, 21 Pilots has a big fan base, which a lot of creative people doing drawings, fan arts, edits, cosplays. They have a whole lore too. And I was like, oh, for a big tribute, I pretend to do a tribute to the band. But the band, it's also all the fan base, it's also all the people doing like creative things around what the band created. And I was like, I need to have some people on it. So for the 21 Pilots one, I asked some of my friends, which are also on the Ghost project, because they are like musician friends that I met a few years ago. And I was like, for the end result, I was like, that's perfect. Like all the collaborations, one of my friends doing a guitar solo, one of my friends singing with me, doing like a duet on one of the songs, which is not a duet on the original song. I did also a choir thing on one of the 21 Pilots songs. I was like, oh, people, if you want to participate, you can sing and record yourself on the chorus of that song, and I'll try to do like a digital choir. So I already had the idea of that 21 Pilots project. And when I started the Ghost project, so I started to do the things on my own, like my guitar takes, doing my selection of the songs that I changed several times. And I was like, 21 Pilots, Ghost is like 21 Pilots. It's the whole fan base, the whole creativity of the thing. Like, I know that there is something that I will not be able to play right. I know that there is some things that like people can give me some ideas,
Right.
creative ideas, give their own thing to the project. And I was like, okay, I need to have some people on it. And at first I started to send text to some of the people that I am on my 21 Pilots one. So there is, for example, Maxime, my guitarist friend who played the solo on Respite, which is an incredible guitarist. I had Enzo, Clarence, Alexian, other people like that who play like instrument participations on the project, like the guitar solo for Clarence, the piano for Alexian, vocal participation with Evrose on Sirius, which I had the idea of doing a duet vocal. And the great thing with Evrose that she can do saturated vocal, and she did like the screaming also on Sirius. I was like, oh, that's great. And that was her idea. And so all the participations. Also during the process of the album, I met Gemma, which is my girlfriend, which added so much thing to the project. All the makeups, the costumes. She did backing vocals of almost all the songs. And she was like, oh, maybe you can do this thing. She had the idea for the photo shoot. She had the idea to include the plushia in the album. Ideas that I don't had at the beginning. And it took like a big proportion with all the ideas she gave it to me. And big up to Gemma. Because she's also a big fan of your podcast. So.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear. And that's cool to hear, too, that you guys actually met while you were working on this specific one? Is what you're saying?
We met at Disney because, as I told you, I used to work at Disney as a ride operator guy at the Tower of Terror. And Gemma is still working at Disney as a character. And we met at that time on the bus stop because I had a Ghost t-shirt and she recognized the t-shirt. And at that time, I was already working on the album and we were like having a walk and was like, oh, I'm a musician. I'm working on a project that you may like. And she was like, oh, if you need a sister of Sin or someone like to appear on the project to do one vocal take, I can. And at the end, she did all the costume, all the makeup. We use her camera for all the Papa video takes. That's her behind the camera, checking everything is right with like the lighting and so on.
Dude, that warms my heart so much, honestly, because just seeing like two obviously very talented people work on this project, but knowing that like that's your partner now, and like that you guys met through this band essentially,
exactly.
And I need to go ahead and just like say this, like, because I've been wanting to say it. She did an amazing job on all the makeup and everything. Like it was, I can't speak highly enough of it, dude. It was so well done, and to see two artists come together and make this project actually happen, fantastic. Gemma's a huge talent, and honestly, I don't know if the project would have come to full fruition without the both of you being as involved as you were. So seriously, hats off to her, man. Like I know if she's gonna listen to this, like Gemma, you did fantastic.
Yeah, I would have like released the project, but it would have not looked that great. Like on the visual, some of the aspects, it would have. I mean, just imagining myself doing all the makeups and all the costume, disaster. I worked on the costume. Actually, I did the Papa Neil hat, all the design. I did some of the things, but she did the Year Zero robe. She did like the makeups, the bats for series. A few days before the recording, I was like, oh, if you have the time and if you have the stuff, you can maybe try to do the bat wings. But like, oh, she was like, okay, yeah, don't worry. I'm going to take some wallpaper and paint with black paint. And she did the thing a few days before the recording. That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, they looked amazing, dude. And that's what I was going to get at too. Like how much I loved seeing the costume teasers on the social media before watching the actual project. And just getting into the project, as it were, like from start to finish. Like I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that has not seen this, but for anybody that has actually watched this, I really liked the presentation because it was obviously meant to be the Impera era of Papa Emeritus IV with throwbacks to the other ones. And the way the throwbacks were done were very well done because I was wondering, the whole time going from start to finish, was like, how are you going to integrate Neil and Terzo and Secondo and Primo into everything. And it was fucking hilarious the way that you put Papa Neil in there, because that is exactly how I pictured that old bastard being the whole time, that he's just sitting there. He's just like, oh, again, old man yells from the porch. It's like, oh, you damn kids ruining my legacy, pretty much. So, but I love how much you also managed to throw in some cooking material references with one of them in particular. It was fantastic. It was funny. It was funny to me. And then also your impressions of each one were really good too. Like the mannerisms and all of that. I can tell, and anybody that watches this can tell, a lot of love and work went into this. How did you figure out, okay, here are the specific songs I want to do? Because Ghost has an entire almost 5.5 hour catalog of music. So narrowing it down, obviously you have to play like certain cuts that they've done on this tour and things like that. But as far as arranging song order, was that something that you kind of planned out, or was it more along the lines of, okay, like certain songs need to go in certain spots, to tell the concert story, as it were? Or which songs did you decide, hey, let's do a medley of these? Because I think the medleys were probably some of my very favorite pieces of this performance.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's the 20 minutes piece of the album. At first, I have to think back 10 months ago, but I think I had already the big majority of the song already in my mind. It was like pretty obvious that I was gonna play like the big hits, and most of the songs they played live during the Re-Imperator. I had already kind of the order. I swapped some of the things as I started to add some songs. I had the idea of the medley at first, but I was not aware of what time it was going to be. I didn't know it was going to be a 20 minutes medley. I was like, 10 minutes. Oh, let's do 20 minutes.
Double.
Yeah. And at first, it was supposed to be even more longer, because there was 20s in the medley that I had to kick out because it was already too long. Longer version of Dance Macabre too, that I finally put with the mashup with Spillways, which is one of the things I'm the most proud of.
That was my favorite one, dude. Like the way that you put them together was just, again, chef's kiss.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was just like, let's go full disco. And for the songs, I'd say, so I had like, all the songs out of the medley, out of the mashups. So like the mashups, it's Spillways, Dance Macabre, you have the Monstrance Clock, Thus Zenith, and you have Life Respite, plus the acoustic medley, which is a last minute thing also, that I added because I was like, I need like a calm part on the album. In my head, I was like, okay, Ghost, they have like rock song, it's very punchy. It's not the most hardcore thing, but it's already pretty punchy. And I was listening to the full result of the thing. I was like, it's a lot of rock song, but not with a slow moment. During the show, they have like ease, they have a like slow song. I was like, I need to add like a slow part, which lasts maybe around 4 or 5 minutes. I was like doing an acoustic MTV Unplugged inspired performance, like everybody sit with like the candles, the acoustic guitar, and then at the end going crazy on the Griftwood with like breaking everything. I was like, I need to add a part like that, and that permit me to add songs that wasn't played at the origin, like Griftwood, which is one of my favorites, and Gemma's favorite too.
Same.
Witch Image, Hunter's Moon. I was like, I need to put like the Hunter's Moon chorus. Body and Blood too. And that just came after that. And all the mashups. I was like, Zenith. At the time where I put the Zenith, the Synapsensia, Monstrance Clock, Zenith wasn't an official release. And then I did my own version of the mashup. And I think 1 month after that, they released the Zenith with like the 13 Commandments compilation. I was like, that's the perfect timing.
Right. It's like, thank you, Tobias, for this gift.
Yeah. No, it was perfect. And I was like, even if they haven't planned to release it, it was like it's going to be a great Easter egg for the fans who knows the song, and yeah. And at the end, I did like while listening to the full thing, I was like, I almost covered the whole discography except from the EPs. I was like, I think on Opus, I think I got all the songs, because if you listen to the parts where I'm talking, I did organ instrumental arrangements at the back that are very, very low volume,
Yes.
but that you can hear. And I tried to do like organ arrangement of some of the songs. And I think I got all the songs from Opus, because on the talking before the medley, I put a bit of Death Knell and Satan's Prayer, which I think if I do all the count, because there is the Genesis part, the Deus Culpa intro reversed, I think I got all the songs from Opus.
Yeah, I was noticing that too, because the way I watched it was like I watched on my big screen in the living room, and then I took it and I watched it on my phone again with my earbuds in, because I like to consume content in every way. Obviously, like, you know, again, this is a musician talk here, and anybody that's an audiophile, like every time I do something, I have to do what I call the holy trinity of test, where it's like car, earbuds, television, you know, because I have like my home speakers set up. So I'm like, well, I got to hear how everything sounds. And that's, again, going back to the way you mixed. Everything sounded really well done. No instrument overtook the other one. I didn't find myself being distracted by any like one particular thing, because I think playing music is both a curse and a blessing, because I have the most difficult time not pulling one instrument at a time out and hearing only that instrument whenever I'm taking a song in. So to be able to come into this project visually and audibly and lose myself in it was that was probably the biggest takeaway for me, is that I was able to just not have to dissect anything, and I was able to just enjoy it as a complete project for what it is. So again, hats off to you for like the mixing on the musical side. Yeah, you're very welcome, dude. It sounds great.
It was definitely a big goal, because mixing live instruments, like especially the live drums, and my nightmare is to mix the vocals, especially with them like those, so you have like all the layers and all the choir backing vocal things. It's a nightmare.
It is.
And
it is.
But I'm pretty proud of my bass drum guitar mix, because as you said, I did kind of the holy trinity. You said I tried several times to listen to it on my television. I tried with my Beyerdynamic headphones, with also a JBL headphones, which are like more bass when you listen to it, more bass heavy. So yeah, I try to at least have a good bass, drum, guitar foundation, a good root for the rest to exist on it, like the vocals, the synths, and all the rest. But yeah, I mix like 2 or 3 different bass amp simulation sounds. I managed to stay with the only one guitar sound. I was like, oh, I'm gonna mix 3 guitar amp sound. No, I just chose one amp. I was like, okay, that's the right one. Let's save the preset and don't touch it anymore. And for the drums, that's the drums of my father, where we like give drums lessons. I managed to get his drum room every Saturday for like 2 hours. So I was trying every Saturday to work on the song, to learn them, then record them. And then I took 2 full days to record the drum video, because I had to put the black overlay thing behind, get all the costumes, the lighting. And I did that during the Christmas holidays. It was nice. Like 2 full intense days. And yeah, for the drums, it's like my father bought a setup. So I tried to put it well, found a great way to mix it. And I had to do a trigging on the kick and the snare with Melodyne, because the snare sounded flat in the mix. I was like, I'm gonna mix it with a MIDI drum sound, a snare sound, to add like more kick and snare. And the first song I finished the official mix was Mary on the Cross, because it has a pretty straight and simple drum pattern. And I was like, okay, now I feel like the heavy kick drum, the snare, the guitar, and the bass, and it's great. So let's go with that for the rest of the songs. And I try to do it the best way I can. I had to readjust some of the things, but I'm actually pretty proud for the result of the mix. So thank you.
You should be proud, man. It's great, and especially like you were mentioning, like kind of vocals being a nightmare to do. Like, God, like vocal recording is the bane of my existence, my dude. That, yeah, for real, like that, and drum mixing is also that as well, because I've tried so many different techniques over the years. I've even done where you separate the cymbals and the drums, where you just record the drums, and then you overdub the cymbals after the fact. And I think Dave Grohl is somebody that I've seen do that quite often.
The Queen of the Stone Age, I think, on the album.
Which blows my mind, because Songs for the Deaf is one of my favorite works that he's ever been a part of. And to hear the drums that are going on there, dude, like to just record that separately, I was like, come on, that's nuts. And that's a fantastic album for anybody that has not heard that one. I think Songs for the Deaf is probably their best. Next to Rated R, which that was I think that was second album. But yeah, as far as recording the drums and all that shit goes, dude, my God, most of the time nowadays I'm doing like VSTs and like plug-in, you know what I'm saying? I'm doing more like plug-in work with, I've got an electric kit, because I mean, my neighbors would hate me if I use my real kit. But, recording, live drums is a challenge, because, you want to get the tunings in there correctly, and you want to make sure there's no cymbal bleed through the microphones. And that's what I was actually wondering, because like I couldn't tell if you used any kind of like MIDI, mixing into it. So like, again, it came out very well, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. In terms of equipment for your guitars and stuff, were you able to like microphone some amps, or were there any like digital plugins, or did you do kind of like a hybrid?
So actually for the guitar, I made a choice. I went for a VST sound for all the guitar takes, because I was like maybe trying to emulate kind of the sound of I didn't have a particular sound in mind, and I don't have a lot of really fancy, great guitar plugins. I just use I think it's called 11 MK2. It's the basic guitar rig thing from Pro Tools that you can use. If you buy like Pro Tools, it's a VST that they gave you with it. So I just use one of the amp that I had to readjust. It was kind of a modern overdrive amp, because on the Imperator, the guitar like a very heavy sound and sounds pretty clean, a clean, dirty sound. I mean, in comparison to the Opus sound, which is a very crunchy old orange amp sound with I think it was a Gibson SG.
Yep.
I was like going for like a more clean live sound, but actually, so all the guitar are VST. I use some guitar pedals like the whammy for Watcher in the Sky, when Sodo is doing the kind of dive bomb thing, because I don't have a Floyd Rose, so I had to use my whammy pedal. I use a bit of chorus and phaser on some of the clean parts, like just basic boss pedals. But for most of the thing, it's VST. But for Mariana Cross, I did the choice to use my guitar amp to have like because it's supposed to be an old VHS live recording,
right,
in the context of my album, like the music video. I was like, just for this one, I'm going to use a real amp guitar sound. So I just put a mic in front of my orange amp, which is like a digital one. It's not I don't remember. It's like an Orange Crush. It's like a great one, but it's a very digital orange sound, not like a very vintage one. But still sounds great. And that's the only song where I recorded all the guitars with the amp. It was like, it's going to bring a more live sound.
That's a good conscious choice, though, on your part, because like I could tell there was, that it sounded a little different, but in a good way. And which that part of the video, again, I'm not going to spoil it too bad, but that part of the concert presentation was goddamn hilarious, dude.
Everybody liked the Neil part and what follows after that.
Yeah, I had quite a loud chuckle. Like I scared my cat. He jumped. I was like, and he jumped. Oh man, yeah. Again, like that's the beauty of this whole project, man. There's like a ton of enjoyment about it. Music, visuals, the whole nine. It's definitely like having a good like digital ritual experience. So
that was the goal.
Yeah, that's the best part about this whole project, man. And it's cool to hear, some just behind the scenes stuff on how you made it come together. Is there anything else, like, as far as like the upload time? Because for anybody that wants to go check it out, it's pretty much a full concert. It's almost an hour and 45-ish minutes altogether. It's it's quite long, but when I watched it, I didn't even feel like that much time had passed because it's such a good time. And as far as YouTube goes, because I know YouTube can be a pain sometimes loading up. Like, how was the upload for that? Like, did it sit there for days on end? Because I did one video, not here, but like forever ago, for my old podcast. And dude, I uploaded that thing. I started it at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh guys, it'll be out by like 8 o'clock in the morning. Bro, it was out at like 8 o'clock that night.
Yeah, actually, for the YouTube upload, it's not the worst. But my laptop suffered a lot. The YouTube one was like maybe 3 or 4 hours, which is kind of okay for a big video like that.
Right.
But to export the full project with like my video editing software, which is an old version of Adobe Premiere, it was 1 full day of my computer.
Oh no!
Like a radiator, 1 full day of the computer loading. And the worst thing is, so I had planned the release date a bit more than 1 week before like the official release. I remember talking to you about that and giving you the release date on Instagram. I was like, okay, I did like a schedule. Okay, that day I have to, because I knew it was going to take a lot of time to export the video file of the album. I was like, okay, that day the album has to be exported. I need to have the full video audio file ready to be on YouTube. So I exported the thing. But the thing is that because I have a pretty slow computer, and you can imagine the size of the project, of like a 1 hour and 48 minutes project, just the amount of files of things in it. It was already a nightmare for me to finish the video editing, because with all the files, I had to export songs one per one. I did like separate video editing files for all the songs, and then to put all of them in one video editing file and then export the full thing, because my computer was dying at that point.
Oh no.
And I was like crossing my fingers to hope that the full project was going to be ready with like no video editing problems, audio problems. And so I exported the full thing for 1 day. I rewatched it and I noticed some shortcut problems, audio problems. I was like, here we go again for a ride.
Oh no.
And I did that 3 times, 3 exports, so 3 days to have like a full rendition of the thing. I was like, okay, it looks great. I don't feel the need to re-export the full thing again and to fix small problems. It was like one of the worst phase of the album, like to re-export it again and again, because I was not able to watch the full thing on my video editing software. My computer was like dying. So I had to export, watch, and then fix the problems to then re-export the project. Nightmare.
It really is a nightmare, dude. I've been there before a few times, and people don't get to like really see that part of the process. So anybody, again, out there listening, go watch this, because like this man done did a ton of work and suffered literally 3 days to resurrect this thing. I mean, much like the coming of Jesus, it was 3 days of work to get this thing. I mean, God, come on now.
You got it. That's it. Exactly.
I know you've done this Ghost project. You have original work as well, correct?
Exactly. I'm gonna come to. So I have. My main YouTube channel, where I do all my project. I did the Ghost one. I did other covers project like 21 Pilots. I also did like other bands, and I plan to do other future cover albums, because I like that format, even if it takes a lot of time. I would like to do that on other bands of other genres. I maybe plan to do it on Radiohead, because I'm a big Radiohead fan too.
Ooh.
So I'll see. But so that I have my own solo things that I'm working on. I didn't release a lot of them right now. I have some songs on YouTube, but it's mostly instrumental songs, inspired by like lo-fi chill-out music with a bit of electropop. I did a rock oriented metal song the past year on Halloween, which is called Dancing Bones. It's the last personal composition I released, which is on my YouTube channel. It's the last song I did, but I plan to do future personal songs because so I think I told that, but I'm doing my studies at the Conservatory of Paris, at the Paris Conservatory, and I'm on my first year of class, and the upcoming year, because it's a 2 years program, I'll have to show some personal songs that I composed myself in front of the teachers and of a jury, and to perform a 20 minutes live set of my own songs, but I have to do everything, the songs, the scenography, everything. And it's going to be my final mark for the year. And so I'll have to work on some songs, but it's great because I plan to work on some personal compositions. And also, I have my own rock band since 4 years, which is called JASSYBEE, JASSYBEE, which is a power trio with my friends Louis and Cyrian. It's kind of an alternative rock inspired band, so kind of inspired by Muse, Radiohead, but with like dream pop inspirations. And my drummer is a jazz drummer, so he kind of pulls some jazz drumming inspirations.
Nice.
And yeah, we try a lot of several things, and we do a lot of shows in Paris. Only friends for now because we're like a small band, but yeah, we did some shows in venues in Paris, which is very good.
Where can people follow you on social media if they want to follow you, my friend?
Some people know me as Octo Ghoul, but actually my main Instagram account is my Robin Julia one, which is called, I think it's just Robin Julia or Dynamite Robin. You can search for that. But I have my other account, which is the Octo Ghoul one, but which is it's just a secondary account. I did all the promotion, all the advertising of the album with this one because I wanted to have one account to post all the pictures of me with the outfits, all the papas, costumes, and so on. I'm still gonna use this account for like reposting ghost things, or if I do another ghost project.
Sure.
And because Octo Ghoul is also my nickname, because I joined a ghost live cover band project, a French one, which is called gonstFM, which is like a ghost choir project with fans, and I'm gonna be the phantom either guitarist in it. And so Octo Ghoul is the name I choose for my ghoul for that project, so that's why it's also my Instagram nickname. But my main account is the Robin Julia one. You can also follow me on my YouTube channel, which is called Robin Julia Dynamite Robin, kind of my Instagram one, sorry. And also for the people who wants to listen to my own music, I have my music is on the platforms like Spotify, Deezer. It's just called Robin Julia. And for my band JASSYBEE, it's just JASSYBEE. It's also on all the platforms, and we have an Instagram account which is called JASSYBEE Band.
Awesome, dude. We're gonna make it easy for you. Go to the show notes below and just click the corresponding links to any one of those and go follow this man and go follow his projects, because I personally have been able to check most of these out, and I think they're just fantastic, and I think there's something for everybody.
Merci beaucoup.
Very welcome.
Yeah, well, for all the person who supported this project, like all the people who were a part of this project, who just like saw one Instagram post about it, decided to share it, like you or other guesties, just like to say a big thank you if you put all your trust in this crazy project. So thank you a lot. Thank you a lot to all my friends who, some of them are not used to rock or metal music, but were like, oh, that sounds like an interesting project. I can play for example, Marceau is a funk jazz musician. He was like, oh, I don't listen to hard rock music, but I trust in you, Robin. I'm fully okay to play the series solo. So thank you to all the people who gave their participation to this project. A big thank you to Gemma. I love you if you watch that, but thank you for making this project look the way it looked with all the costumes, all the outfits. Thank you for all the people who share this project, all my friends, all just like people who found this project in an aleatory way. They were like, oh, that looks interesting, let's watch that. So yeah, thank you a lot. Thank you, Ghost, of course. But yeah, no, thank you everybody, and I hope you still enjoy my future project. I hope yeah, and all the people who like interested maybe to watch this project, don't feel any obligation to watch the full thing. I know it's very long, but go for the songs you like, and if you have the curiosity and the time to watch the full thing, I just hope you'll enjoy it as a great ritual. So thank you.
Dude, you did good. I gotta say, I think you would have made the man himself proud. This is a really great project, and I look forward to hearing much more of your original works too, because I think what I've heard so far is really great. So hopefully we'll still see you around, dude, because like I know you're in Gonst posting with us, and you're just around the community. So keep at it, man.
Thank you, Richie. Thank you.
For past, present, and future episodes of gonstFM Off Air, you can subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Be sure to leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. You can leave a rating and comment on individual episodes on Spotify. Or if you're listening on YouTube, click the like button. Leave me a comment below. All of Robin's projects can be found in links in the show notes below. If you'd like to sign up to listen to a live gonstFM radio ritual, if you'd like to buy gonstFM merchandise, if you want to listen to past radio ritual song playlists, if you want to join the ghost shit posting fun and Gonst posting with us, it's all in the show notes below. Just click the corresponding links. And so, my dearest Gonslings, this episode comes to a close. Some of you I will see in internet land. The rest of you I will see in Gonst posting. Take care of yourselves. And remember, until next time, in Gonst, we tronst. I'm Richie. I'll see you next time.